Okay, I want you guys to go here to W3 Schools. You guys can see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay, W3 Schools, there's under exercises, there's an HTML quiz and a CSS quiz. Let's try both of these. I think the CSS quiz is shorter, if I'm not mistaken. There's fewer questions, so maybe just do that one first. Start the CSS quiz. Yeah, this is the shorter one. It's 25. The other one I think has like 40 questions. But try this on your own just to test yourselves. I'm gonna post a link in the chat. Try it on your own first, and I will do it together. Okay? I'll pause for let's see, 25 questions. Let's say each question takes you like I don't know, 15 seconds. So you don't need too much time. Let's go like 10 minutes. 10 minutes max. Okay. Um, anyways, don't worry if you didn't get all the questions right or anything. We're gonna review these so you do get it perfect every time. I don't think these questions change. It's always the same quiz. But question one, what does CSS stand for? Does anyone know?
Cascading. Cascading style sheet, sir.
Yep, cascading style sheets. I'm not sure. I think they call it cascading because um, like the styles transfer from a parent element to a child element. I think that's why it's called cascading. CSS cascading. Where the style declaration comes from, whether it's marked as important. Yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah. There's an order. You could have inline styles, external styles. You could have same style listed twice, and I guess the one closest to the element and the last one is the one that's gonna be read at the end. So, or it's gonna be the one that's applied at the end. So I think yeah, that's what it's referring to. What is the correct HTML for referring to an external style sheet? Yeah, the first one. Link rel equals style sheet, type equals text slash CSS, href equals mystyle.css. So the first thing is the rel attribute tells the browser that this is a style sheet. The second one, the type, is just a MIME type because different content on the internet has a different type. If you ever click, I think under network, see here there's okay, not that type, but let me zoom out. I guess I can't zoom out. I can zoom out here. Um, but yeah, there's different file types that you'll see here. Oops, I can't expand it further. Maybe here. Let me try a different page. Inspect. Okay, now it works. I don't know why I wasn't zooming out. on the other page. Never mind. It used to show like the file types and stuff. It's not showing it now. Anyway, whenever you go to a website, let's go to a different site. Some of these have extensions. You could tell, okay, this is um, we're sending a GET request and then it's returning data to us. And user agent refer. Where did it list the type? I forget. Anyway, you have different types of data. CSS file is different than an HTML file, right? They have different extensions. You have images. So each of those have their own type. So type equals text slash CSS. You're just saying this is a text file um, in the format of CSS, right? As opposed to an image or something else. And then the href is just the name of the file and also the path to the file. If you put it in a folder, you got to put, forward slash the name of the folder and then the name of the file. So that's the path to the image. Where in an HTML document is the correct place to refer to an external style sheet? So it's basically asking where do we put the style sheet link? Yeah, it's going to be in the head. Exactly. In the head section. So here's here W3 School's website. If you look at the elements here, if you go to the head, here you'll see a bunch of scripts and then there's a style right there. Style element and there should be a link here too. There's a couple links here. Got a bunch of different style sheets. Got one for icons, Apple Touch icons, more icons. Actually, these are icons. They're not style sheets. Rel equals icon. See if there's any style sheets here. Yeah, here's a couple style sheets right here. And yeah, they're using multiple style sheets. Okay, next. Which HTML tag is used to define an internal style sheet? We just saw it a second ago. Use the style tag. Script is used for JavaScript. This is nothing, there's no such thing as this one. So style. Which HTML attribute is used to define inline styles? We use the style attribute. That one's easy. Which is the correct CSS syntax? Okay, so this is for changing the color, the text color, right? The font color. Do we say body color equals black like this? No. Is it this one? Body semicolon colon black? Nope, that looks wrong already. Body colon color equals black. Um, nope, it's not that one either. This is the correct one. Body, and then you got the curly brackets, and then inside that you have your property. Here's the color property, and then a colon, and then the value of the color property. So selector, you have your block, and inside the block you have the CSS property, followed by a colon, followed by the value. How do you insert comments? Um, in a CSS file and HTML file is a little bit different. I don't think I showed you. Yeah, third one works. Third one is how you comment in a CSS file. I want to see an example. Let me create a new file. Actually, yeah, I'll create a new file real quick. This is a new project, by the way. That's why there's flashcards and index. Get to that in a second, but let's generate a random HTML file. All right, so HTML comment, you could press Control /, right? You just type some random stuff here. Now, if I want to comment this out, it's Control /. Okay, but HTML comments look like this. That's different than a CSS comment. If you want to see a CSS comment, that's a CSS comment. Not sure why it gave me a commented out style. Say body. Let's do that. Now, if I want to comment margin 20, Control /, you see it adds that little /* and then ends it with star /. Okay, so HTML comment, CSS comment. And then if you had JavaScript, just do, I don't know, console.log something. If I want to comment this JavaScript out, if I press Control / on this line, this one uses the double /. So they all have their own way of commenting. HTML uses the arrow and the exclamation and the dash dash. JavaScript uses 2 /, and CSS uses /***. Okay, so for this one's asking CSS, so it's going to be this one. Which property is used to change the background color? Easy one. Yep, third option. Alright, how do you add background color for all H1 elements? Is it h1.all, all.h1, or h1? Correct, Mari. The third one. So h1, this just selects all h1 elements. Which CSS property is used to change the text color of an element? Or are we on number 10? I'm going to pick some of these just to go a little bit faster instead of asking you guys for each one. So color is how you change the font color. There's no such thing as a text color property. No FG color. It's color. Which CSS property controls the text size, font size. Correct syntax for making all the P elements bold. Remember for the previous question asking how do you make all H1 elements what is it, bold or something, we just had to select using the element name, so this is no different. If you want to select all the P elements, you just use the selector for the P, but then it's not text size, it's font weight. So P font weight bold. This is the correct answer. How do you display hyperlinks without an underline? That was the text decoration, none. How do you make each word in a text start with a capital letter? We didn't. I don't think I did an example of this, but you could. It's asking how do you make each word in a text start with a capital letter? So it's not saying how do you capitalize all the letters. How do you just make each word start with a capital? So just the first letter of the word. It's going to be text transform capitalize. If you want to make all the letters capital, it's text transform uppercase. Which probably used to change the font of an element. It's a font family. How do you make text bold? Font weight. How do you display a border like this? Top border 10 pixels, bottom 5 pixels, left 20 pixels, right 1 pixel. I remember it goes clockwise. So top border 10 pixels, that means clockwise you're starting from the top. So whichever one starts with a 10, you could count that as possibly correct. So that eliminates this one and eliminates, okay, that just eliminates the first one. So these three all have 10 pixels as the first value. So that's correct. Bottom border, bottom would be, you're starting up here, it's 10 pixels. The right side would be the 1 pixel. So the next one going clockwise, top, right, bottom. Bottom would be the third value. So whichever has 5 as the third value, that's correct. And these two. Okay, Carl saying number 3. Let's see, number 3. What's the left side? 20 pixels. If you want the left side to be 20 pixels, that's the last one. So top, right, bottom, left. So whichever has 20 as the last number, yep, the third one. So that would be the correct answer. Which property is used to change the left margin of an element? Margin left. When using the padding property, are you allowed to use negative values? No, correct. But you can with margins. Margins you could do negative. Padding, no. How do you make a list that lists its items with squares? List style type of square. Not sure why it's not just list style list. Well, yeah, there's no. Maybe list style would work too. I gotta actually test that. Let's just do it in one of these examples. Okay, so here we got all these examples of list style type, right? List style type circle, list style type disk. Okay, what if we just did list style? Run that. ul.a, ul.a. Yeah, I think list style also works, but not a list type. That's not gonna work. See, went back to the default of a solid dot. But yeah, you could do list style type or just list style. But list style is not one of the options here, so it's a list style type. How do you select an element with ID demo? We haven't got a chance yet to go over these, but yep, hashtag demo, correct, Allison. Um, yeah, ID is very similar to a class. We use a hashtag instead of a dot, and IDs should be unique. So unlike a class, you shouldn't be putting the same ID on different elements. Only one element should have a unique ID. What are we on? 21. How do you select elements with class name test? That's with the dot. How do you select all p elements inside a div element? I'll let someone answer this one. Yeah, number one, correct, Carl. How do you select all paragraph element inside a div element? Div space p. So that means the paragraph inside the div. Div plus p is a sibling selector. This means um, the paragraph that's next to the div. Div dot p means div with the class of p. So this is the correct one. How do you group selectors? Um, Semicolon. How do you group selectors? Oh, sorry. I thought it's asking how do you put multiple selectors or styles in a selector? That's not what it's asking. How do you group selectors? Separate each selector with uh comma? No. Separate each selector with space? Yes. So I think it's asking if why am I confused by this? How do you group selectors? Like group as in um group. Oh yeah, in the CSS. Okay, so here's an example. We have maybe okay. This is not a good place to try it, but let me do one in here. Let's create a style element. Okay, so let's say I want to select all the H1s, all the paragraphs, and all the LIs. So if I want to make um all the text, okay, well, okay, let's do just the H1s and the paragraphs. So we're not doing the whole page. If I want to make all the H1s and all the paragraphs have green text, for example, I could group them together. So I could say H1 space paragraph, or sorry, comma paragraph, color blue. So this means all the H1s and all the paragraphs are gonna be blue. So you gotta use a comma for this. Um, you could add as many. Now it's all the H1s, all the paragraphs, and all the LIs. If I put a space, what would that mean? That would mean the LI inside the paragraph inside the H1. This is not correct. But when you put a comma, you're basically creating a separate. We don't need the one on the last one, but it's the same thing as doing H1. Oops, color blue, and then P color blue, and LI color blue. So instead of having a separate selector for each one, H1 color blue, paragraph, and LI blue, you could just put them in here with commas. Okay, and that replaces all of that. So I don't know why I was blanking out on that. So it's comma. Separate each selector with a comma. What is the default value of the position property? Uh, Position. We have not talked about this. This is one of those things that's kind of hard to understand at first, but the default value would be static. Okay, it just means that the position is like how you want to position an element on the page. Static means it's gonna go wherever you put it in the HTML. So um, if I put the H1 here and then a paragraph and then a UL, they're just gonna show up in order. First, you're gonna see the H1, then the paragraph, then the UL. Okay, but if we change the UL's position to something else like absolute, for example, we could move that basically in the HTML to show up above all the other elements. And actually, it wouldn't just be above them; it would overlap them. It would kind of be lifted up, and then it would cross these elements. If you said, for example, position absolute or fixed positions an element relative to the window. So if you want something to stay where it is, like this header that you see here, W3 schools, or this side panel here, when I scroll down like this, those things stay where they are because they're fixed. And it's probably sticky though, it's not fixed, but it stays where it is, so it's fixed. Absolute positioned is if you want to, let's say, um, have this button always stuck down here inside this div. If this whole box was, let's say, a div, and you want that stuck to the bottom left corner, you could use absolute positioning, but then you also have to make sure that you add extra margin under this stuff, or else this would like overlap on top of this. Oh, I actually clicked. Anyways, we got 100% perfect. Okay, there's also an HTML quiz. This one is a little bit longer. HTML quiz. It's got 40 questions. Um, Again, I guess I'll give you like this one takes a little bit longer, but I'll still give you 10 minutes and then we'll try it together. Okay. I'll go over um, absolute positioning and relative positioning and all that if we have a chance today. I think we might have to use it anyway because I was planning on showing you how to create some flashcards and stuff. We might need to do that. So for now, just try the HTML quiz, starting with what does HTML stand for, and I'll post a link in case you don't feel like navigating there yourself. Just give away the first question there. Hypertext markup language. I'm gonna pause for 10 minutes. Let you guys try that. All right, HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Next question. Who is making the web standards? All right, you probably wouldn't. These are questions that I have not gone over with you guys. Um, but it's the World Wide Web Consortium. W3. So World Wide Web Consortium. That's what W3 means, by the way. World Wide Web Consortium. Um, Basically, an organization that helps keep standards, and then all the browsers like Chrome and Firefox and Edge have to meet those standards. Choose the correct HTML element for the largest heading. H1. What is the correct HTML element for inserting a line break? BR. What is the correct HTML for adding background color? Body style equals background color yellow. Right? You're using style attribute and adding CSS background color property. Important text. Strong means strong emphasis. So that would be important text. Even though bold does the same thing, makes it bold, this also makes it bold. This makes it italic. This actually means strong emphasis. Correct HTML element to define emphasized text. EM. Again, I and EM do the same thing. They make it italic, but this just means emphasis, so it's just more correct. What is the correct HTML for creating a hyperlink? A, and then you got to use the href attribute. So remember that for links, it's always a href. Which character is used to indicate an end tag? Closing tag always has this, right? The /. How can you open a link in a new tab or browser window? I have not shown you this yet, but why don't I show you real quick? Let's say I add a link here to Google. Let's just, I don't know, one of my list items here. I'm going to make it a link. Oops. A href equals, let's say this takes us to Google, right? First of all, if you're going to create a hyperlink to another website, you should use the complete URL, including the HTTPS. So if we're going to take us to Google with this link, you want to put https:// google.com. If you don't put the HTTPS part, it's going to think you're looking for a file called www.google.com in your directory here. So you have to include this part. I could show you an example here. Actually, no, I can't. Can't really create a file called google.com. But if I didn't include that, that's what it would try to open. So make sure you include that. And if you want this to open in a new tab, first of all, it's not going to open. We're in example.html. If I click on it, this tab itself changes to google.com. So if you want a new tab to open every time I click Google, you need to add a target attribute. So you need the target attribute, but the value also matters. If you put target equals new or target equals underscore blank, both of these will technically work, but if you want it to be a new tab every time, you have to say underscore blank. If you put new, it's going to open a single tab, and it's going to name that tab new, and then every time you click that link, that same tab is going to be used instead of a brand new one each time. So I'll show you an example. If I say href to Google and then put target equals, if I say, I don't know, banana, for example, doesn't matter what you put, target equals banana. If I click on here and click Google, you see it opens a new tab. If I click again, oh, it keeps opening a new tab. I guess it does work. New tab each time. right? I mean, I don't see. I mean, that's what target underscore new is gonna do anyway. So you say target equals underscore blank. It's not really gonna act any different. Oops, wrong file. So now it's target underscore blank, right? Yeah, target underscore blank. So let's see how that behaves. Probably gonna do the same exact thing. So whether you put banana or underscore blank, it doesn't seem to make a difference. But I don't, that might be like a recent update that caused that. It used to be it would use the same tab each time if you put anything other than underscore blank. Keep opening that one. So now it's target equals ABC. Right? If I do that, click it again. Yeah, it keeps opening a new tab. So technically, both of these work, but this is the actual correct answer. I don't know. Right now they're doing the same thing, but let's go with underscore blank because that's always been how you do it. Which of these elements are all table elements? All right, we haven't done tables yet, but tables use the table tag. Let's do a quick table. Kind of like a list, except it has more parts. You have the table element. You have the table tag, opening and closing. Inside the table tag, you have table rows for every row that you're going to create. Okay, table row. Row is, horizontal, each row. Inside the table row, you can't just put stuff in there. You have to, in order to put stuff inside the table row, it needs a table data or TD. So this is like the actual cell that you're going to put stuff in the table cell. You could put TH instead of TD if it's meant to be like the header table header, like the header cell, like the one with the bold text in it. You could put a TH instead of a TD, but both of them just mean like a table cell, actual box that you put your content in. Right? So technically this would be row 1, column 1. If you add another table row, then that's going to be row 2. But again, you need a table data in there. So TD, this would be now row 2, column 1. If I add another if you want to add more columns, that's going to be more table data basically. You add more cells in a row, then you're going to have another column. So if I add a TD here, now that's row 1, column 2. And it's going to be row 2, column 2 in the next row. Right, so your table R, or TR for table row, TD for table data, or TH if it's a table head. And then you could also organize tables using headers. Okay, so you could put a header element in there. It's just to organize it. So that's going to be the table's header. Could also, actually, sorry, it shouldn't be header. It should be t head. But that's basically your table's header. Okay, so, and then you could do t body for the body of the table. So you don't need to include the t head and the t body. You could just put table row, and then table data inside every table row. But if you're trying to organize it, you could put a T head to show that this is the head, and then maybe all the TDs inside that one should be THs because that's the head. And then that will look like this. There's row 1, column 1, row 1, column 2, row 2, column 1, row 2, column 2. It would look more like a table if you put borders on the table datas. So I could here, let's go to style element real quick. And let's say table if you put a border on the table, it's just going to put a border on the outside. Just a border on the outside of the table. If you want border on each cell, then that's going to be the TD. So we put a border on the TD. That would be these guys. Notice these are THs, so the first row is not going to have borders on it, just the second row because that has the TDs. So you can see now the second row's got borders on them. Let me turn off this border collapse. I accidentally added that. The Copilot added it. If you don't put that border collapse, if you remove that, it's gonna look a little bit different. Now instead of the border of the cell being separated, being merged with the table's border, there's a little gap between them. So TD and TH, we're gonna group those. We want both of them to have borders, so I'll do that. There you go. Now both rows have the borders on them. And then border collapse just means you don't want that double border looking thing. That's a table, and those are all table elements. So which one of these has all the table elements that we looked at? We know there's a table, there's no T foot and head, but there is T head and no body, but there's T body. There's table, table row, table data. So this is the only one that all of the elements in it are correct. Right, it's not body, it's T body. So T body and T head. Correct answer would be that third one. Alright, inline elements are normally displayed without starting a new line. Inline elements, true. How can you make a numbered list? OL, remember OL means ordered and you get numbered list by default. How can you make bulleted list? That's the UL. What is correct HTML for making a checkbox? We didn't look at this yet, but it's input type equals checkbox. Let me show you an example. Input type equals checkbox. Gives you this. So input type equals checkbox. What is the correct HTML for making a text input field? I'll just be input type equals text. And if I change this type to text, you'll see that It'll give us a text input. What is the correct HTML for making a drop-down list? All right, we haven't looked at this one either. But if you want to make a drop-down list, it's gonna be select and select with options. So like this. Create a select element and then you put options inside and then that gives you this. So select. What is the correct HTML for making a text area? Text area is when you need a bigger text input. So if input type equals text is not enough, you need a bigger box. It's text area. No, it's not input type equals text area. It's text area. Okay. You need an opening and closing tag for that. Wait, do you need an opening and closing? Text area goes like this. Yeah, you do need a closing tag. Text area looks like that. What is the correct HTML for inserting an image? Image img source equals, and you can add an alt attribute to describe the image. So this one. We're halfway there. What is the correct HTML for inserting a background image? That's gonna be style equals background image URL. This one. An iframe is used to display a web page within a web page. True. Iframes are cool. If you go to YouTube and let's click on something. Let's say I click share and I want to embed. You'll notice it gives you an iframe. I could copy that iframe, just paste it right here anywhere. Just pasted that iframe tag from Google, from YouTube, and boom, I've got a YouTube video. Some videos not gonna let you do it. I don't know exactly how you enable it or disable it, but YouTube video would play here if it was allowed. You could also do maps. Let's say, I don't know, I want to share the Autry Museum. Click share, embed a map, and there it is again, iframe. You could copy that. Let's paste it after this one. Okay, there's the YouTube video, there's the map. And if we look at the document here, there's the YouTube video, there's a map underneath. Pretty cool. You could also just do an iframe. Iframe. Oops. Source equals, let's say, https:// google.com. It might not let me again, but let's try it. Yeah, Google refused to connect. Let's try lapacific.edu. There it is. Now there's the LAPC's website is there. Just it's tiny because we didn't give it a width and all that. But let's say width equals 100% and height equals like 800 pixels. Make that a little bit bigger. There's the whole LAPC website embedded in this website. So just using that simple iframe. So an iframe is used to display a web page within the page. True. HTML comments start with this and end with that. True. Block elements are normally displayed without starting a new line. False. Block levels do start a new line. Which HTML element defines the title? Title. Which HTML attribute specifies an alternate text for, that's going to be alt. Why doc type, which doc type is correct for HTML5? That's the one that you see up here. If you press exclamation tab, it's just doc type HTML. This one. Which HTML element you use to specify footer? Footer. Which you can embed a SVG element directly into an HTML page. True. SVG elements are things you created in Adobe Illustrator. Let me see if I have any. I should have some right here in the Illustrator folder. Oh, actually, unless I didn't save anything as an SVG. Um, movie quote AI. Hello Kitty. Which one of these would be simple? What's this? Doodle PNG. Let me open one of these. So SVGs, remember, these are just they're points, right? And they're connected with lines. So you could create this image just using coordinates. So if you file export selection, you could export as an SVG. And then let's see if I think I could preview this before I, never mind. Let me just export it. Let's put it on the desktop. Wait, where did I export it? File, export selection. Yeah, it's on desktop Illustrator 1. Go here. Oh, there it is in the SVG folder. Asset1.svg. So this image now is an SVG. If you um, open with Visual Studio Code, never mind, it's giving me a preview. If you open it with Notepad, it will look like this. So there's all the numbers, all the text that you need to create that image of Christopher Walken that I had. And you can see here it starts with this XML version equals 1.0 encoding, blah, blah, blah. So this is kind of like the doc type, but for SVGs. And then here's the SVG tag. So instead of HTML, it's SVG, right? And it's got this defs element. So it's not HTML, but it's similar. It also uses tags. It also has a style element, and it also has CSS sort of styles here. You could see here. Instead of a background color, though, it's fill, and it's got stroke attributes or stroke properties. And then here's the paths, all the different paths that make up the shapes. All that is in there. Um, so you could use that as an image. You could say, get rid of these iframes. So you could do um, image source equals, let me put this in here. So image source equals asset1 SVG. Now, it's not a good idea to have spaces in your file name, so we should probably remove that. Rename that so there's no space. Example SVG image. And there it is. Now it's in my page. Came in like full size though. It's huge. Let's put a little width on that. Okay. Um, so there's the image, but that's not what it means by you can embed SVG elements directly into an HTML page. So what that means is you could, instead of using an image tag, you could put the SVG directly in there. So um, I think there's a way to show the original here. It's showing me the preview of the image, but how do I show the code? Probably a button or something to click. What's this? Reopen as source text. There we go. Okay, so there's the actual SVG code. I could just copy the whole thing and just paste it like this directly. Instead of using an image tag, you could just put that there and see, it's there again. And I don't know where you'd put the width and the height though. Probably just right here on the SVG tag. Width. Yeah. So that's what it means when it's saying you can embed it directly. True. What is the correct HTML for playing video files? I don't show you this yet, but video, there's a video tag you could put. It's kind of like an image. You use let me delete the SVG. Let's go back. Okay, so videos, you could use a video with the source attribute, and then if you have a video, you could play a video. But you could also do an iframe with a YouTube video, or you could do a video directly in there. For audio files, same thing except it's audio. And the HTML global attribute content editable is used to update content from the server, return the position of the first round found occurrence of content. No, it specifies a context menu for an element. No, specify whether content of an element should be editable or not. So this one, it's not something I'll ever use. I don't think I've ever used content editable attribute, but let's try adding it somewhere. Let's add it here on the H1 content editable equals true. See what happens. Now I could edit this content. Weird, right? You could allow editing the text, but as soon as you refresh, it's going to go back to whatever it started off as. So content editable, used to specify whether the content of an element should be editable or not. In HTML, on blur and on focus are event attributes. Um, on blur, on focus. On blur is what happens when you move away. Like if I'm hovering over this right now, if I click on it, I'm on focus. If I move away, that's on blur. And these are actually JavaScript events. Okay, if you want to use JavaScript in a page, you can. So these are JavaScript events. They're events, event attributes. Graphics defined by SVG is in which format? XML. So that code that you saw, the SVG code, it's not HTML, it's XML, which stands for Extensible Markup Language. And this is Hypertext Markup Language. That's Extensible Markup Language. The difference is you could make up your own tags in XML. The HTML canvas element is used to draw graphics. Use this in JavaScript class. So if you take the JavaScript class, we'll use the canvas to draw a bouncing ball or something, or make a Tetris game. You do a lot with the canvas, but you need JavaScript. It's used for drawing graphics. HTML, which attribute is used to specify that an input field must be filled out? Required. Um, so this works. I think you have to have a form, or else it doesn't really. You can't really use it unless you have a form. So you need a form element, and then inside the form you need inputs, and then you need a submit button to actually see if it's required or not. So you say required, that means this has to be filled out or else you can't submit. Right, here's my input. If I try to submit, it says please fill out this field. It doesn't let me submit until I fill it out, then I can submit it. So the required attribute. Which input type defines slider control? I forgot which one this was. I think it's range. Hold on. Input type defines slider control. Let's try range. Say input type equals range. Input. There is no slider, so it's definitely not slider. Is it? Yeah, it's deprecated. There's no such thing as input slider, or if there was, it no longer exists. But let's see what the range looks like. There's your range. So which input defines a slider control range? Which element is used to display a scalar measurement within a range? I think that's scalar measurement within a range. I think it's meter. I gotta check. So input type equals range. What was the question? display a scalar measurement within a range. Um, I think it's meter, so let's do meter. Say a value equals 50%. I think it's not percentages. It's between 0 and 1 we have to pick. So let me try 0.5. There it is. Okay, so 0.5 gives me this bar with half of it full. If I say 0.75, then we should see, yeah, 75% of that bar is full. So it's a good way if you want to like show graphs or something, and you got like percentages, you want to show them as these green bars with a certain amount filled in. You could use meter and just give it a value of how much you want it to be filled. We could probably, you could control the value with the range, but that would require JavaScript, I think. And then the range can also have a minimum and a maximum, and then you could put a value on that. This too, I think, could have a max. In this case, would be 1, but we could change the max to 100, and then we could put 75 instead of 0.75, I think. Yeah, that works too. All right, moving on. We're almost done. It's already 8:20. Okay, we went way over, but I want to finish this and then we can take a break. Um, which HTML element defines navigation links? Nav. Remember, we put a nav tag in the header. That's where we put our navigation links. In HTML, what does the aside element define? Content aside from the page content. So it's just another element used to organize things. If you have like unrelated content or something, you want to, I don't know, add a little note somewhere, use an aside element. And it's something that you're probably never going to use, but that's what that is. Which HTML element is used to specify a header for a document or a section? That would be header. Nice, we got 100%. Perfect. Okay, it's 8:20. Let's take a break. Let me pause this. Let's get into it. So first, let me double check what assignment I gave you guys the other day. Assignment 2 for beginner class. Download the zip file I shared with you, and I want you to create a website for a product, but it must be something other than the mosquito zapper. You can start with the file I worked on in class and modify it or start from scratch. Make sure to include a header, nav, hero, features, call to action, buttons, and footer. But that's just for CG200 and 165 WST. Um, so today, I guess I'll focus on what I want the more advanced class to do. So I might include a little bit of JavaScript. Now I want to show you something real quick. This was done with ChatGPT. All I said is make me a HTML quiz, and then it gave me this. Pretty cool. I mean, I just typed in a prompt and it gave me all this. I've got questions. Which HTML tag is used to create the largest heading? I click H1. Cool, it's correct. Click on the next. Go to the next question. We get this progress bar here. Say I click the wrong answer. So which CSS property you use to change the text color? So it's color, but let's choose a font color just to see what the wrong answer looks like. So it shows in red and then shows the correct answer in green. gives you a little message, right? And then I also asked it to create flashcards for me, and it gave me this. Um, so the flashcards give you a question: what does H1 tag represent in HTML? I click on that, has this cool flipping animation, and tells you the definition. And if you're good, you want to move on, you think you have that answer, you could say I know this, and then move on to the next one. What is the purpose of the alt attribute? Click on that, get the answer. If you need more review, like you want to study this more, you could say needs review. Click next, and then it also lets you filter. But my point is, this is all very advanced. It's pretty cool. It also lets you take the quiz, and then if I refresh the page, my progress stays unless I reset the progress. Okay, so very cool, but um, to make something like this, there's a lot of JavaScript involved. Let me just show you what that looks like. So here's the quiz itself. Okay, we got our HTML here. Let me show you the style. So this is all the CSS involved in this. It's a lot of stuff. Then you have your HTML, all this, and then you also have JavaScript. And there's a lot of JavaScript. You need to keep track of the correct answers. For example, they've got a list of the correct answers. There's a list of feedback to give in case you choose an answer. There's a bunch of functions in here for letting you select the responses and adding and removing classes so that it changes the styles. And it's just a lot of stuff. And then this is just for the flashcards. Again, a lot of stuff. You've got a lot of CSS. You have a bunch of HTML. And you also have uh, JavaScript here. For example, we've got a list of objects we're keeping track of. These are the flashcards. Each flashcard has either HTML type or CSS type, right? That's why we're able to filter the questions. And then there's the question and the answer. And then we've got a bunch of functions. Um, but yeah, we're not going to create something like that because that's too advanced. Then I asked it to make me a simple one. I said, give me a more simple version with minimal JavaScript. And this is what it gave me. Much more simple, but also works. We got questions, show answer, right? So I thought this one looks a little bit easier to make, so we'll make something like this. To make something like this, you could probably do it even without JavaScript, but here, it did use JavaScript, but very, very minimal. This is all the JavaScript we need for this one. All it's doing is adding and removing a class called flipped on the flashcard. So if something has a class of flipped on it, it's going to show the backside. If it doesn't, it'll show the front side. That's all that does. It hides and shows different elements. So you could probably do that with just CSS too. So I'll try to make something like this, and then I want you guys to, if you're in the advanced class, um, you'll also make something like this, but I kind of it changes things. I originally wanted you guys to do like a little quiz for the uh, the product lander. So whatever product you chose, you're gonna make a page for that. I wanted you to create like a little quiz for that. But I guess we could take what we learned from this and do that. So um, yeah, it'll be similar. So whatever I create in class right now is gonna be an HTML quiz. But I want you to take what you learned from this and make a quiz for the product, and then I'll see if I could do an example of that too. But probably won't have time. It's already 9. So let's get to it. I'll start from scratch, try to make this very easy to understand. I'm gonna create a new file here called myquiz.html. These will be the AI generated ones, and my quiz will be the one I do from scratch. Okay, call this HTML CSS quiz. We'll start by adding that title. So if you want to follow along, you want to create a new file called myquiz.html. Give it a title, and then let's think about what we're gonna do here. Um, so I do want to create a navigation and a header and everything. So let's start by adding a header. We're also gonna have um, yeah, we could do a main section and then a footer. Okay, start by adding those 3 main sections. Okay, header, main, and footer. Inside the header, we'll have a navigation. Um, let's not put right now. I don't think we need the navigation at the moment because what are we gonna navigate to? We could have different sections, I suppose. So inside main, maybe I could add a section. Have a I don't want a flashcard section. I want a HTML section. Okay, we'll have another section, be the CSS section. So one section will have HTML questions, the other one will have CSS questions. Okay, let me give you guys a minute to add all this. So it's just new file and use exclamation, press tab to get your basic boilerplate and add a title of HTML CSS quiz and give it these sections that we're gonna need: header, main, and footer. And in header, we're gonna have a nav. I just don't know what I'm gonna have in the nav at the moment. Probably navigate to these different sections. So um, in your main, create a couple sections. You could put an ID on each section, I guess. ID equals HTML section. This one will be ID equals CSS section. I think let's use I'm gonna use something called camel case instead of these dashes. Camel case just means capitalize every word after the first word and stick them together like this instead of using a dash between words. Do it that way. Right, and after you do that, I guess then we could do in our navigation, we could create these anchor links. So what this does is, see it says ahref equals hashtag HTML section. I think I mentioned this before, but if we click that button, it'll scroll down to this section. If we click this button, it'll take us to the CSS section. So instead of going to a different page, they take us to these IDs. That's why we assigned these IDs here so we could scroll to those sections, and that's what I'll do with the navigation for now. Let me know if you have questions. Let's throw something in the footer just so it's not empty. I'll just put a little paragraph here that says copyright 2020. Why is it 2024? 2025 My Quiz app. Let's do that. See what it looks like so far. There's not going to be much, but I like to see it as I'm building it. Okay. Let's structure more content and then we'll start styling it. Okay, so what else do we need here? Let me make this a little bit bigger. So each section is gonna have to have. I want to create flashcards. Or sorry, we're making a quiz, not flashcards. Mm, yeah, we could do flashcards or a quiz. I called it my quiz, but I think originally I want to do flashcards because it requires less JavaScript. For the quiz, it's a little bit more involved because we have to keep track of correct answers and wrong answers, and uh, it's gonna be more work. So I'm gonna I'm gonna change this to my flashcards. Just realized quiz is gonna take a little bit more JavaScript. So let's start with the flashcards. HTML, CSS, flashcards. Still gonna need the same sections. We'll just change it from my quiz to my flashcards. Okay, but all right. So each flashcard is gonna. We should maybe create a flashcard container. We'll have a box with all the flashcards. So let's create a div. Give it a class equals flashcards with the S. Do that. Div class equals flashcards. Do the same for the CSS section. Okay, we have two sections. HTML section, CSS section. Each one has an H1 with the title of the section, and then each one has a div called with a class of flashcards. It's just going to be our container for all the flashcards. So obviously next we'd need all the flashcards put inside the flashcards div. So basically we just need divs inside here. Each div will have a class of flashcard. Okay. So inside the flashcards div, we have flashcards. Do the same in this one. Oops, I was muted. I don't know how long I was muted, but we've got a section, um, flashcards, flashcard in the section. We'll have multiple flashcards. I'm just going to do one and then I'll duplicate that for all the other flashcards. Each flashcard has a front and a back. And we could do just an H2 inside with the question and then make the whole front the button. When I click on that, flip it over to show the back. Or you could add a button in there. It depends how you want to do it. It's just preference. I want to keep it simple, less HTML. That's why I'm gonna do just a H2, no button inside. The div itself will be the button. And on the back, just add a paragraph with the answer. As you can see right now, it's just listing them. HTML section, what does HTML stand for? Hypertext Markup Language. If I create more flashcards, so here's flashcard 1, create another flashcard. I should probably put a, um, do I need unique IDs for each flashcard? Like, should I have flashcard 1 through 10 or whatever, or do I just give them all the same class? For now, I think I'll just stick with they're all just class equals flashcard, and there's nothing unique about them other than their questions and answers. If we need to later, we could add IDs or something, but let's just stick to it this way. So next question being a separate flashcard. We'll just type div dot flashcard. Give me another div with the class of flashcard. And I'm letting Code Copilot to do this for me just to save time. Give me the questions. So on the front, I'm gonna have what is the purpose of the A tag. Now, the reason why it's using these special characters, see it's using and LT semicolon and GT semicolon. That's the HTML code for left and right caret, which is this symbol. And you can see the reason why you need this and you can't just type this is because you see it turns red because this is a opening tag, right? It might mess up the code, so you can't directly put this character in there, so you use the HTML character instead. Okay, same with this one. That's the right arrow. This one didn't turn red, but still, you want to use these HTML character codes for them instead of directly typing them to avoid issues. You see, here it looks like that. Can add another question here. Which tag is used to define a table row? And again, we're using those HTML characters, and there's a TR tag. So maybe we should do 3 and 3 just to keep it short. I don't want to create a whole bunch of them because we're just demonstrating how this works right now. So I'm going to go to the CSS section and create flashcards for this one. Again, question with the class of front and then an answer with the div with the class of back. Let's do 3 of these. So 3 of these flashcards inside the flashcards div. Okay, so this is all I have at the moment. We got 3 HTML questions, and then in the CSS section, we got 3 CSS questions and answers. Okay, the 3 and 3 should be enough to demonstrate how this will work. So I think now we can move on to CSS to make this look nice. So to just keep this HTML file clean, I'm gonna add a link and let's put our styles in a separate file. We'll create a link rel equals style sheet href equals styles.css. I'm gonna create a new file here called styles.css, and let's start styling them. So first start with the header, or let's start with our reset star, make everything box sizing border box. Sure, let's change all the fonts to Arial, margin 0, padding 0. Got rid of all the margins, paddings, change the font to Arial. Next, let's do the header. Give it a background color and change the font color to white, although it's a link, so it doesn't. The only time the inheritance thing doesn't work is when it comes to a link, because the browser has like a special um, style for links. This color white doesn't override it, so you need to specifically target the link. We have a nav in there, so let me give that nav its own styles. Then we could target the nav link. So now this A, specifically A inside the nav, inside the header, that will override the font color of the link. We added a end hover text decoration underline, so we could keep that. And let's also, here, before I do A, I put the A's in ULLI. We include that. UL, the style type none, get rid of the bullets. We don't need this because we already set padding 0, margin 0. We do need the LI styles. We want to display them inline. And then we could get to the A. Just adding more detail there. I don't think we need the, what do we have here? We probably don't need margin top on the nav. I'll just get rid of that. Okay, so why is this red? Missing a closing tag. Closing bracket. So header, some color, background color, text color changes, padding, text align center. Then we have our nav. Nothing really, no styles for the nav itself, but for the UL inside, we put list style type none. And then for the LI inside the UL, display inline, so we get them next to each other. I think I'd rather have inline block. Inline block so that, you know, I don't know, if I wanted to add like a hover effect, it would work better on inline block. No huge difference. Like right now, it's actually no difference, but I don't know. I'm used to inline block, so I'll do inline block. Margin 0.15 means 0 on the top and the bottom, 15 pixels on the sides. So if that was 0, these buttons would be closer together. So just putting 15 pixels to spread them apart a little bit. And we've got the A inside. That's got its own text color, text decoration none, because we don't want underline unless we hover over it. Then we add text decoration underline. Let's go on to the next section. So, oops. I'm gonna collapse the header so we could now do, what's the next section? Main. So for main, we could start with some padding, sure. Padding 20 pixels. Or this just added all the styles for me, but let's slow down. Let's start with just the padding 20 pixels. I'll get back to all this in a second. Okay, so just the padding 20 pixels on the sides. If you want to change the background color, sure. It's barely any different. Minimum height, 80 VH. I'm not concerned about that, but in case it's empty, you want to throw in a minimum height. I'm going to leave it out just because I'm trying to keep this simple. I'm also going to leave this out since it's barely doing anything. Stick with the padding, and let's start with the section styles. Okay, so each section can have margin to separate them. There's the HTML section and the CSS section. Give it a little bit of margin. Added a bunch of stuff again. Just the margin bottom, let's do like 40 pixels. Okay, and that pushes the CSS section away from that one. The H1 itself, that says CSS section, give that H1 margin as well to push the questions away, the flashcards themselves. That section has a div with the class of flashcards. What do we want to do with those flashcards? We could do so the flashcards is going to be the container that has all the flashcards. And we don't want them just one on top of the other. We could put them next to each other. So display flex would do that for us. Or display inline block. But the reason I'm not doing inline block is because with flex it's easier to position it where I want, where I can evenly space them apart or center them. I mean, you could center them easily with inline block as well, I guess, text align center, but display flex will let me do things like center it vertically, not just horizontally, and then decide if I want to, have even space between each one, or do I want to have padding on the sides. It's just a more modern, useful way of organizing things in a row or column. Put a gap between each item. Flex wrap. Wrap just means if the if the flashcards don't fit in one row, just wrap around to the next line, the bottom. I'm going to leave that out for now. Okay, then we have the flashcard itself. Just make sure I'm spelling these the same way. Flashcards, flashcard, yeah. Okay, so now each flashcard, what do we want the flashcards to look like? They should probably all have maybe you want to make them all the same size, so same width and height. Start with the width. 200 pixels should be fine. Height of 150 pixels. Border 2 pixels solid. Let's go with that. Now it looks like that. They have the same width, height, and border. Let me make sure I'm zoomed out. Okay, this is at 100%. What does HTML stand for? There's the question, the answer, but I'm thinking these are a little bit too small. Go 300 for the width, and for the height, 200. And I want the text to be centered completely, meaning I could do text align center. That's not gonna center it vertically, right? So if I want this to be here in the middle, that's where flex comes in. So for the flashcard itself, I'm also gonna make that display flex. So then I could do justify content center and align items center. Align item center is what will actually center it vertically. Okay, we're gonna get rid of the paragraph. It's not supposed to be in there. It's gonna be on the back side. We're not gonna see both at the same time. So let's do front and back, right? We got front and the back side. So what we need to do is let's add actually we're gonna have to change stuff here a bit. The flex, justify content center, text align center, all that. I'm gonna remove that real quick. I want to add that to the front and the back. We want the front and back to be the same size as the flashcard itself. So that means width of 100% and a height of 100%. And then we're going to make these display. I don't want to do. Yeah, we'll do display flex. Okay, justify content center, align item center like we wanted before. For the front and the back. But here's where we're gonna need to add position property to this because I don't want the paragraph and the text to push each other away. So here's the question, what does HTML stand for? And then here's the answer to that. Hypertext markup language. It's pushed all the way down here because technically they both have the same height as this box because I put 100% height. So there's the front and then there's the back. It's like right below it. You can't see the borders because I didn't apply border to the front and back. I put it on the flashcard. But here, if I put it here instead, you kind of see why it is the way it is. Right, so there's that one and then there's the other one. They're overlapping. Here, I'll make it even more obvious. Let's do background colors on these. I'll put a transparent background color. It will be more obvious that they are overlapping. All right. Okay, so to prevent that overlapping, you need to make them absolute positioned. So position absolute. And then you also need to make the parent flashcard position relative. So you could position these guys relative to the parent flashcard instead of like the next nearest parent, which would be the HTML body itself. So now they're on top of each other. What does HTML stand for? And then you can see hypertext markup language directly underneath. We could further add, along with position absolute, top 0, left 0, just to make sure the front and the back are stuck to the top left corner of the flashcard. And then I'm not seeing centered text, so what's going on with that one? Display flex, justify content center. Oh, it's because the text align center. So even though we do justify content center, the H1 and the paragraph tag themselves are centered, but I mean they have a width of 100%, so it doesn't really look like it. The text itself is not centered. It's still a left align, so that's why it looks like that. So just text align center the text. What else? Okay, let's make this not transparent. Let's just make it a solid, I don't know, blue color. So since I made it solid, we're only seeing the answers now instead of the questions, because that the question is technically behind because we put it before the backside, and then the last element you put is going to be on top of any element that came before it. So since the the paragraph with the answer is comes second, it's going to be positioned on top of the front side actually. So we could leave it like that and then take care of this with CSS by changing the z index of the back to be lower than the front. You would do that by saying dot front z index. Just even if you put 1 in there, that'll be enough to bring the front on top of. The higher the number here, the higher it will be in the stack. But if there's an element like the paragraph that doesn't have a z index applied, it's automatically going to be lower than even 1. Right? So z index is the stacking order. You could put like 1,000 if you want, which just means it's going to be higher up in the stack. So we could do that, or you could also just put the front after the back. You see this one, I put it after, so it rearranged. But instead of going doing that for all of them, I'll just add the z index. Okay, 1, 2, or 3,000 doesn't matter. Just add a z index to the front. Um, and then if we hide it, we say display none, you would see the answer. So basically we need a way to toggle display none and then turn that on and off by clicking. So I can do something so when I click this, the front becomes display none. Or we could create a separate class called hide, which will have display none on it, and then somehow toggle that class. So add it and remove it from the front element. So if we could add hide to front, then it would hide it. Right? So if I go to one of these that has a class of front on it, and I add space hide, you see that one got hidden. We're seeing the answer. So we need a way to add that. And that's where the JavaScript comes in. You need the JavaScript to add and remove a class from an element. Or if we wanted to do CSS only, we just have to be more creative, do something else. Like instead of having a hide class, we could say front and colon focus, which means you've clicked on it, display none. That would work too, but you'd also need to make sure that um, front has. I'd have to go to each front element and add a tab index though, to make them clickable. So what is this? What is the purpose of the whatever tag, the A tag? So if I click on that, it quickly disappears. I think the display none is not gonna work. We gotta do like opacity 0 to hide it instead. So there, I clicked on it, it disappeared. But if I click away, it comes back. So that's the CSS only solution, which works fine. I think I'll stick with that to completely avoid JavaScript. Just having the JavaScript will be nicer though, because it could show and hide, and I don't know. It's just more convenient, but I'll do this for now. And focus, opacity 0, but I have to add tab index equals, I have to add a tab index to all of the front elements. So that's the thing I could avoid. If I don't do that, if I just choose to do this with JavaScript instead by toggling the hide class and dot hide, I could do that instead. I don't know. I'm gonna do this just to avoid the tab index, adding that to all the elements. That's gonna be annoying. I'll just do this. So that means I need a JavaScript to use this. I'll do it real quick. Um, let's see, what do we need to do? We need a script tag for JavaScript. Sorry, I know this is not a JavaScript class, but you do need to throw in some JavaScript every now and then. And you have ChatGPT to help you out with this now, so it's not that difficult. Looks like, what is this gonna do for me? Query selector all, flashcard for each card, card add event listener, click, card.class list dot toggle flipped. That's not what I want to do. I want to grab all the um, yeah, well, we could do it this way, but it'll be a little bit different. Instead of end hide, I would have to say flashcard. So the flashcard with the class of flipped and dot flipped. The front will have a z-index of 1 and the back will have a z-index of 2. So the back will show instead of the front. That works. Um, Now let's make this look nicer. The colors can be, you can pick your own colors and everything. I would go to a website like Adobe Colors, get some inspiration. Or maybe you're just good at picking colors yourself. But other things besides color, I do want to make since I have like a dark background color, let's do color hashtag FFF to make the font color at least white. That'll look better on that. And let's bring it, I'm gonna make my window a little bit bigger because squished, it doesn't look nice. We want these headings to be centered. I also want to center all the flashcards. So the flashcards element, let me give that a background color real quick. Background color, let's go, I don't know, brown. Okay, that is our, it has a width of 100%, so we don't need to worry about centering the flashcards section. But since we put display flex on it, we want to center these guys inside of it. So right now it's not centered, it's just left aligned. Let me zoom out a little bit so we could see what happens here. The reason why I put display flex on this was just to make that easy. I could do justify content center to get those to be centered that way. And if I want it to be centered vertically, first the entire body itself needs to be taller because look, the footer is all the way up here. I want that footer to be on the bottom. So you could do main height 100 VH or calculate 100 VH minus like whatever the height of that header is. Let's just say 100 pixels. Okay. Okay, now that the container of everything, the main section is actually tall like that, it would make sense to add for the flashcards container. So that's what contains all the flashcards. Give that a line item center. And we also need a height of 100% on this. Display flex, height 100%, align item center. Oh, and the section also. I forgot there's a section that needs a height of 100%. Right, let me give these background colors. Let me see why it's still not doing what I expected. Okay, I gave section a height of 100%, but it's not really 100% of what I thought it would be. Main itself, well, it does. It has a min height 100 VH minus 100 pixels. Let me give that a background color. Main is actually tall, so that's not an issue. The reason why section is not filling up the whole thing, I guess 100% doesn't really work unless you put an actual height, not a minimum height. So if this had a height, say 1000 pixels, then that would work, but it doesn't, so we can't use that. So what we're gonna have to do is instead of trying to center the flashcards in the middle of the page, we gotta center the section in the middle of the page, meaning main has to have display flex, flex direction column, sure, because we don't really want to put these next to each other. Line item center and justify content center. That's how we'll do it. Then we can get rid of the section background color, the flashcards container. We still want flex on that. And then the flashcard itself, stay how it is. So like this, it's centered. Looks a little bit nicer. And then like add a little footer class here too, or footer selector. Oh, put that in the wrong place. Okay, that's very basic flashcards, but we're out of time, so let's stick with that for now, and then I'll let you guys, I don't know, work on it. And I'm not gonna make this do for a while, I guess, because I didn't finish working on it. But you can start um, and use what you learned to start trying to build something interactive that you would um, you would advertise to people. Maybe you'd create ads to get people to visit this page, and this page would be some sort of quiz to engage users, have them answer some questions about your product or something related to the product, and then give them a little score at the end, and then a button that takes them to the sign up page or the shop page or something, right? I'm not gonna make you do all of that, just the quiz part or that interactive section is what we're talking about here. So sort of a quiz or maybe something like flashcards, but related to the product page, right? Because you guys already did a product, right? Well, you did what did you do? Create a web page into no, not that one. This one. So I asked you to fix the mosquito zapper page, but you're gonna convert that to your own type of product, not the mosquito zapper. And then for assignment two of CGD200, you pretty much have the same assignment. Just take the zip file I gave you and redo it. Um, yeah, so let me know if you guys have questions. I'll try to add more instructions to here because I don't really have too much yet, but I'll work on it. Um, Sign out should be posted, I think. Yep. 417 is the sign out code. Let me know if you guys have questions. If not, and I'll see you next week.